Racing has done it again. The latest edition limited edition kit has dropped and is one of their cleanest looks yet. The Evo LE Flash is available now and will be featured at the Super Motocross World Championship Finals in Las Vegas. The Evo DST chassis is an industry favorite, offering unrivaled adjustability thanks to the VOA Fit system. The best look is on the best kit, and the Evo LE Flash continues to push fly racing into 2026 and beyond. Learn more at flyracing.com or on Instagram and Facebook. The Big East Power Sports Show is rolling into Syracuse, New York this October, and it isn't just another expo. It's your full access weekend to the latest motorcycles, ATVs, snowmobiles, gear, and accessories, plus live demos, giveaways, and tons of fan-fueled energy. Whether you ride street or track, snow or trail, Big East brings the world of outdoor recreation to you. It's live October 3rd and 4th at New York State Fairgrounds. Get $5 off your tickets with promo code PODCAST at BigEastPowersportsShow.com. Welcome to the Rider Magazine Insider Podcast. I'm Greg Drevenstedt, Editor-in-Chief at Rider Magazine. Joining us today from New Orleans is JT Nesbitt, who runs Bienville Studios, a design firm based there in New Orleans, Louisiana. JT has been a designer for over 30 years, and he's the creative force behind the Confederate G2 Hellcat and the Wraith, the Magnolia Special, which is a natural gas-powered car that set a cross-country record, the Curtis One electric motorcycle, the Bienville Legacy, and most recently, the Magnolia 4, the first American-made longitudinal four-cylinder motorcycle in 83 years. JT, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be invited, and it's always a pleasure to talk about motorcycles, my favorite subject.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, it's interesting that you and I are talking now. We talked briefly on the phone last week, but you and I briefly met 20 years ago. It was around the time of Jazz Fest, so that's usually around May of 2005. I was living in New Orleans at the time, and a buddy of mine and I were wandering around and stopped by 845 Carondelet Street, which was the headquarter of Confederate motorcycles back then. And we were able to come into the back, into the shop, and you were there working on the Wraith. You were getting it ready for a land speed record run. I can see a Wraith there behind you. Yeah, and we got to, like I said, wander around, take a few photos, and see you with your creation.
Well, I can't say that I remember you. Man, it's like most things. We were actually putting that bike together while we were loading it into the van. You know, we're due in Bonneville in 2 days or whatever it was. You know, all night drive with rotating shifts. I mean, that's just the way it goes. No matter how hard you prepare for your event, it always comes down to the last minute. Isn't that the way it always is, though?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, we're recording this on September 3rd, and just last Friday was August 29th, which is the 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. You and I were both living in New Orleans at the time. Huge impact on a lot of people's lives. I mean, 1,300 lives were lost or more, thousands more displaced, hundreds of billions of dollars in damage. But I know it had a particularly devastating impact for you and the business for Confederate motorcycles. Tell us a little bit about what was going on for you at that time when Hurricane Katrina came through Louisiana.
Well, I know people are probably sick of hearing about it at this point, but that pain still lingers. It's still here. Well, the funny thing is, man, when you know exactly why you're on planet Earth, and you're able to fulfill that mission, it's the most blissful, wonderful sensation you could possibly imagine. But when you know why you're on planet Earth and what your purpose is, and you're not able to fulfill that, it's abject misery.
Yeah.
And the reason why I exist is to build series production motorcycles in New Orleans, following in the footsteps of Joseph Treen. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but New Orleans actually has a pretty vibrant history of innovative motorcycle design and manufacture. In fact, in 1952, when Indian went out of business, the second largest producer of motorcycles in the United States was located at 400 Carrollton Avenue. That's Simplex. disregarded by a lot of people because it's a lightweight motorcycle, but it's
Right.
also got a lot of really interesting design features and interesting thought behind it. And we can get into that later, but the
Sure.
point is that I really feel that my job here, my role is is to stand on the shoulders of Joseph Tring.
Indeed. Now, um,
So
talk a little bit
Katrina,
about.
well, so not to interrupt you, but to answer your question, Hurricane Katrina robbed me of that dream
Right.
and robbed me of 20 years.
Right.
So I'm still here. I'm the sole keeper of the flame here in New Orleans for motorcycle design. And there are a lot of things I can do, but I can't seem to do anything else.
Right. Right. Well, let's back up since we talk about Hurricane Katrina, which was 20 years ago. Let's go back a little bit further. I mean, you're a native of Louisiana, from northern Louisiana. So just so people know, you run Bienville Studios. Your website, bienvillestudios.com, has a wonderful series of videos where you share your personal journey of your career, the designs, the projects you've been involved with. You've got a series of journal videos which cover a number of inspirational motorcycles that you've owned, motorcycles, like you said, you talk about the Simplex, various other motorcycles, and it's all leading to the culmination of the Magnolia 4, which is, I do want to make sure that we spend plenty of time talking about this beautiful motorcycle that you've designed. But let's go back a little bit. So, before Katrina, you were working for Confederate Motorcycles, but you grew up in Louisiana. In one of these videos, you mentioned, like so many other young people, you wanted a motorcycle. Your parents wouldn't let you have one. You got one anyway. You had to keep it a secret. But then ultimately, motorcycles, as you said, your purpose on being on this earth is to design them to be part of the motorcycle culture. And so, how did you get from sneaking around behind your parents' back with a motorcycle, small bike, to work to designing the G2 Hellcat and the Wraith?
I've always been an outsider. I've never been an industry insider. And one of the reasons why your listeners won't know who I am is I was never on TV. I never wanted to be on TV. What I wanted to do from the very beginning is merge what I was trained in, which is fine art, and my passion, which is motorcycles. So the journey to get there was pretty circuitous. And the first person to ever, when I was in college, man, I was turning in wacky motorcycle projects and expecting a grade from classically trained professors. So I had to do twice the work. So I went back into fine arts to do the painting, the drawing, the sculpture in the traditional way after turning in a wacky motorcycle project that received a no grade.
They didn't know what to do with it.
But revenge is a dish best served cold. And the largest attendance of any show that the Guggenheim has ever done was the art of the motorcycle.
Right.
The single greatest attendance record that they have is for an opening is the art of the motorcycle. So that leads into an interesting question. Are motorcycles art?
Right.
And as someone who has a fine arts degree and is qualified to judge more so than people who don't have a degree, I would say the answer is maybe.
Right.
Sometimes.
Can be, yes. Not
Can
all
be.
of them. Absolutely. So, it's interesting is in one of your videos I read that, you had one of your projects, and I think you said it was a sculpture class, you created this pretty wild looking chopper built around a Moto Guzzi, which is not a typical chopper platform. But then you spent some time riding the motorcycle around the country. You did some writing for Iron Horse magazine, and that was kind of how you got into the industry, but that's also how you got in touch with Matt Chambers, who was the owner and CEO of Confederate Motorcycles.
Yeah, well, let's for your younger viewers who won't know any of this history, let's contextualize it. In 1992, what constituted a custom motorcycle was like an FXR with a tropical airbrushed paint job and chrome caliper covers. I mean, this whole DIY hardcore chopper cafe racer culture, that all came from Iron Horse magazine. So credit where it's due. David Snow, the editor of Iron Horse magazine, was the first person to ever have any interest in what I had to offer when it came to motorcycles, and saw this lost young man in search of something. And he said, you know what, I'm going to give this kid a chance. I'm going to let him write for the magazine. And that altered the trajectory of my entire life. Now, at the time, hardcore choppers weren't a thing. It's only because of David Snow's very careful curation, his humor, his wit. Back in that period, you would laugh out loud when you read an Iron Horse magazine. It was actually fun and funny. I mean, do you remember Chopper Man?
No, I didn't read Iron Horse back then. Yeah, so no, I don't know about it.
And Biker Lit Crit, where he would critique all the other motorcycle publications.
Yeah.
I mean, it was wild. And David Snow is a true warrior poet. So I can't give him enough credit for including me in this little land of misfit toys.
Right.
Jesse James, the first place that Jesse James choppers were featured, Iron Horse magazine.
Gotcha.
Billy Lane, his first feature was in Iron Horse magazine. Indian Larry, first feature, Iron Horse magazine. All of them started with this esoteric but intellectual publication. And there's never been anything like it since.
Yeah, I mean, as a former punk rock kid, you know, it sounds like a publication I would have probably really dig. I always appreciate irreverent and esoteric outsider type publication. So yeah, I'm sorry, that was it was like say a little bit before my time in the motorcycle world, and when I got into it, that wasn't the side of it I was a part of. So yeah.
Well, it was the perfect place for me because I was such a misfit.
Yeah, yeah. So I remember correctly. So one of your assignments was to write something about Confederate motorcycles, and that's how you got your first contact with Matt Chambers. What was this, a Daytona, what, 97?
The first time I ever met Matt Chambers was at a show that I had been invited to because of my writing for Iron Horse magazine in Baton Rouge.
Okay.
And again, let's give some context. When I saw that first Confederate, it was the first production bike. This is 1990, the winter of 96.
Okay.
And what was shown is a bike that was made late in 1995. That was chassis number 3 that he brought to that show. Now, I later tracked that motorcycle down, and I own it.
Oh, really?
I actually own the oldest complete numbers matching Confederate motorcycle in the world.
Wow.
To the best of my knowledge.
Right.
But anyway, let's contextualize what a Confederate Hellcat was. Again, the thought of a custom high performance Harley was some kind of FXR with a splooshy paint job. Do you remember the hamsters? The hamsters with all the green ghost flames and ape hangers and I mean, you remember all that stuff. It was the opposite of what Iron Horse was. And the reason why Matt liked Iron Horse so much is that he was building a high performance V-twin motorcycle, what we would know today as a muscle bike. But back then that category didn't even exist.
Sure.
It was like a totally fresh take on a new kind of American motorcycle. And I fell in love. I was like, oh my God, this not only is it made in my home state, look at what this represents. This represents raw performance, but from an intellectual perspective, it's not a rigid chopper with a 145 cubic inch engine.
Right. Well, I mean, it's interesting. I appreciate you contextualizing it because these days we're dealing with like the huge popularity of King of the Baggers. They're racing these huge bagger motorcycles on, on GP tracks and so forth. And performance baggers and that kind of style motorcycle is wildly popular now. But back then, as you said, that category didn't exist. It
Well,
was really
what is an arch motorcycle?
right.
Keanu Reeves' arch motorcycles is a copy, philosophically, of a 1995 Confederate.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, and he's raced one of those or had one of those raced in the Super Hooligans this year a couple of times. And so yeah, so that's really kind of the genesis of the performance V-twin motorcycle,
It
trajectory.
really it
Yeah.
really is. Well, in the modern era and
Sure.
in the modern sense.
Right, right, right,
But it was never a racing motorcycle. It was always a street bike.
right, right. So late 90s, you went to work for Confederate Motorcycles as a designer. So how'd that work out?
Well, I mean, it was absolutely insane. It was like, oh my God, we don't have any money. What are we going to do? We got this part and this
Right,
part. We got to build bikes. I mean, to be a motorcycle designer was out of necessity.
right. Well, you had said in one of these videos that back then, when you started working for Confederate, that you drew three motorcycles. That you drew the G2 Hellcat, which I guess G2 is what generate the second generation of the Hellcat. You drew the Wraith, which there's one behind you, and that's clearly a landmark motorcycle. And then you also drew a four-cylinder motorcycle. And again, I know there's like Japanese four cylinders. We're not talking about that kind of bike. We're talking about a longitudinal
We're talking about
four-cylinder in the
the
tradition.
the American four cylinder.
Right, the American four-cylinder.
It's American. That's the key. Is that
Right,
it's not transverse. It's in line.
right, right. Exactly. So you got a crankshaft that runs longitudinally with the length of the motorcycle, not a transverse four-cylinder like you have in just ubiquitous, Japanese motorcycles for decades. But so the seeds the were planted back then for the Magnolia 4. But so you designed the next generation Hellcat, you designed the Wraith, and that was my first introduction to you as a designer in the Confederate brand is the Wraith was such a controversial motorcycle. It was very polarizing in its styling. It was on the cover of a lot of the major motorcycle magazines. And then it was soon after that I, like I said, came by your shop and actually got to see it in person. I've never heard it. I've never ridden one. I've never heard it run. Um, but yeah, that was a groundbreaking motorcycle for sure. So.
Well, at the time, it was certainly controversial. I mean, yeah, it was 90%. I hate this. 10%, man, this is the most wonderful thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So having that polarizing design is what gave it such impact.
Sure.
But again, let's contextualize what the Wraith is. It's misunderstood as well. That is an homage, a love letter to board track racers from the teens and 20s. That's where the overall proportion and design language comes from. And if you call your motorcycle a Wraith, like the guys at Combat are, and it doesn't have board track racing proportion, that's not the original design intent.
Right. Right.
And the G2 Hellcat was dedicated to be to a little bit more Street Fighter-ish, but still have that Confederate kind of vibe to it. High performance, a little more on the Street Fighter side, which was the style of the time.
Right.
And the four-cylinder was designed to be, and is designed to be, and always has been, the pinnacle of the American motorcycle hierarchy. So let's look at American motorcycles like this. There's only three kinds of American motorcycle. There's the singles, which were for lightweight competition and general transportation. There are the V-twins, which was the kind of do-it-all general purpose motorcycle for touring, competition, you name it, V-twins did it. But at the very top was the American four-cylinder. which was a high performance luxury touring motorcycle. The most expensive one has always been and will always be the American Four.
So you talk about some of your heroes. I know one of them is William Henderson. Is the talk a little bit about what's interesting to me is, and I admit, my history of motorcycles, pre-war motorcycles, is a little sketchy. But is what's interesting is there were a number of different motorcycles. There was the Ace, there was the Cleveland, there were Indian, had these four-cylinder motorcycles. But after what, 1942, 1943, none were made. So I mean,
Yeah,
I know Indian went
42,
out of business, but yeah.
42 was the last year of the Indian Four.
Okay.
No,
Is
nothing after World War II.
and why do you think the American four-cylinder went away?
I lay the blame for that squarely at a poverty of the imagination by those who are in control of this industry. Now Harley can't do it because a four-cylinder isn't in their DNA.
Gotcha. Okay.
But there are plenty of other interesting American motorcycles that have been designed in the past 83 years, and none of them have bothered to revisit their heritage, our heritage.
Right.
The American four-cylinder, I want to make this very clear, belongs to us as American motorcyclists. This is our heritage. It doesn't belong to big corporations. This is who we are.
Right.
So why hasn't anyone attempted it?
Right.
I've been waiting my whole life for somebody to try it.
So
Why haven't they?
yeah, I've never ridden antique bikes of that era. And I've ridden inline sixes, BMW, and even briefly rode a CBX, but an American four-cylinder, I've never ridden one. And you describe in one of your videos as it's as you said, it's kind of the pinnacle. It's a graceful motorcycle. It has poise. It's a very smooth motorcycle for touring. It seems like it's I don't want to say a no-brainer, but I guess as you said, if the Harley never made a four-cylinder, never made an inline
Yeah,
four, right?
so it's not in their DNA.
Yeah,
So Harley really can't legitimately produce a four-cylinder
right,
because Harley is the ultimate retro brand. And they're also theoretically the blue collar brand.
right. And then,
So
Indian went out of business 1952, 53. There were some, fits and starts to try to relaunch, resurrect Indian. And it really wasn't until the backing of Polaris Industries that they were able to sort of fully relaunch Indian. But since they've done that, they've really been building motorcycles to compete against Harley Davidsons. I mean, they've got, a lot of very similar competing motorcycles.
dude,
Um,
it's nothing but a cynical marketing exercise. I mean, their whole reason for existence is to get just a little piece of market share from Harley Davidson.
right, right,
But that's what Victory Motorcycles was, and that's what Indian is
right. Yes, yeah.
a rebadged Victory.
Right, right, exactly.
Like it just seems a little. It's certainly not coming from a place of love or art, and that's where I design from.
Well, and what's interesting is, I mean, obviously looking at the designs, talking about things like, the Hellcat, the Wraith, you designed the Curtis One electric motorcycle, the Bienville Legacy, and then the Magnolia 4. Is the what was I going to say? It seems like motorcycles there's just so much orthodoxy in terms of like what people will accept in terms of, they want a telescopic fork, they want to see an exposed V twin, or they want, is that you can't color outside the lines very often, is a different sort of front end configurations where whether it's hub steering or I know the Wraith's got the big blades for the girder style fork, is that those as even if they have some superior qualities or characteristics, it's too outside the norm. It seems that is in terms of the bike.
What's the most amazing motorcycle that's been designed and produced in our lifetime? There's a right answer. You know it. What is it?
I don't know what the right answer is. Yeah.
It's the Britain
Are you going to
V1000.
say the Britain V1000? Yeah. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's still the most, it was, John Britton died in what, 1994?
Yeah.
His work is still the most innovative, interesting,
Right.
beautiful motorcycle that has been made in our lifetimes. And it checks all the boxes. Is it from a place of love? You damn right. Is it
Right.
art? Fuck yes.
Right. Right. Yeah, I know that you talk extensively about the V1000 in one of your videos as that it was designed to beat Ducati, and it was designed as a race bike. It's and but they're a very small group of individuals in New Zealand. A lot of people, I think today probably a lot of people aren't that familiar with it. It's kind of been a lot of motorcyclists today may not even remember the Britain. So.
Well, I mean, if you don't know what a Britain V1000 is, I don't know how we can have a conversation. Or turn off the podcast now.
Right, right. Yeah. Well, the one that you that focus on in your video is the one that's at the Barber Museum. Have you had a chance to? I know you had the body work off of it. I know you know Brian Case really well. He runs that
I
museum.
gave
What?
Brian Case is the head of he's the director of the Barber Museum.
Right.
I gave Brian Case his first job in motorcycle.
So do you go up to the museum yeah, I know they've got the design center there, but do you go up there and able to take a kind of a close look at some of the motorcycles? I know you've got a number of bikes that you own personally, but you talk about some other bikes that have inspired you. Do you go there to, kind of get some inspiration or to take a closer look at how certain problems were solved or innovations that were made on some of those bikes?
Well, I don't get any special treatment,
Okay.
which which I haven't been able to figure that one out. But the museum is such a wonderful resource.
Yeah.
And again, if you're listening to this podcast and you don't know what the Barber Museum is and have no
Right.
plans to go, turn off the podcast. This ain't for you.
Yeah.
What a resource. And the funny thing about the Barber Museum is that it's actually not a motorcycle museum. It's an industrial design museum. First and foremost, when I walk in there, what I see are love letters. Everything is surrounded by passion.
Yeah.
All of these machines that these guys came up with, and blood, sweat, and tears to make something new and to live the dream. On the flip side of that, it's also a tomb.
Right.
And the unfortunate thing about the Barber Museum is that it is, in fact, a crypt. It's a graveyard. It's where many dreams went to die. So Brian Case has his work cut out for him how to make that museum a vibrant, living entity.
Right. 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 So let's go. So you had worked for, when I catch up with the kind of the timeline a little bit, you had worked for Confederate, it started there around 1999. Hurricane Katrina was in 2005, so about 6 years later. And the business didn't, I mean, I know the building physically collapsed. I mean, I actually walked through it after Katrina because I had been there before. I was walking around downtown and I mean, the entire roof caved in. It looks like, it looks like a photo of something in Syria or something like, a bomb had gone off. So Matt Chambers relocates Confederate motorcycles up to Birmingham. Actually, was it on the Barber campus or was it, do you have the George Barber and invite Matt up to Birmingham? Why did he pick Birmingham?
Because George gave Matt, George Barber is one of the largest property holders in Birmingham, and
Okay.
he gave Matt a building rent free for a couple of years.
Okay.
But I wasn't with the company at that point. I stayed here in New Orleans because I just felt that I had unfinished business.
Sure. So take us through the next several years after you parted ways with Confederate motorcycles and you were in New Orleans and some of the projects that you worked on over the next few years.
Well, it was the worst time of my life. I was back to the service industry. I was cleaning bathrooms, serving drinks and meals for a living, just to
Right.
pay rent. But while I was doing that horrible work, I I went back to the studio after work and drew motorcycles. It's all I could afford to do. So I kept the four-cylinder alive in the back of my mind. I drew it obsessively.
Right.
And I have a lot of those sketches are in the design brief, available for anyone to look at on the website.
Okay. So, we,
But anyway, back to the question. So
yes.
I went land speed racing back to Bonneville with a flooded out Katrina car and made a movie about that. It's called Salt Dreams, and it's an hour and 5 minutes long. Now, if you watch it, it's also on the website.
Okay.
Don't come asking me for the hour and 5 minutes of your life back. It's a movie made with handy cams by people
Yeah.
with no money,
Right,
no
right.
resources at all, none.
Right. Right. So that was the
And
Stinkin' Lincoln. That was what that project was called. Yeah.
yep,
Yeah. And of
yep.
course, if having lived in New Orleans and been there post Katrina, what people don't quite understand is the number of flooded cars that were just strewn about the city, stacked around. There were even places I went in the lower Ninth Ward where, like, because the houses got up off their foundation when it flooded and floated around, I saw houses that landed on top of cars once the water went down. I mean, they were just everywhere. So you took one of these, flooded cars from the storm and turned it into a land speed racer.
It's a metaphor.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's one of the ways that me and my little crew of people who stayed in New Orleans, one of the ways that we found to do something to heal.
Right. Right. Right.
And then after that project, I got lucky because a little bit of natural gas was discovered on my family land, and I got enough money so that I could quit service industry and build Magnolia Special.
Okay.
And built a car. Since the money was coming from natural gas, I decided, well, that's a sign.
Right.
What is natural gas? What can you do with it? Well, this is interesting. It actually makes a really great fuel for an automobile. You can't power a motorcycle with it because the storage requirements. As a gaseous fuel, you have to have a lot of storage.
Right. Right.
But as an automotive fuel, man, it works really great. The octane equivalent is 130.
Wow.
It's a super stable methane, the combustible component of natural gas, is super, super stable. So you can run crazy compression ratios and really advanced timing. The only thing is it's got a real slow flame propagation. The flame front is really slow. So you got to run a lot of advance with a low revving, long stroke under square engine.
So the car that you built was based on what, a 1928 Ford Roadster, but you did all the body, or was that just the
I don't know
chassis?
who said that. I don't know who said that, but no, it's all one off.
I'm sorry. So the entire chassis and body work and everything was just built from scratch.
Yeah, and it's built to be a CNG car.
Gotcha.
So there are a lot of people who do conversions.
I see. Yeah.
Where you'll have a pickup truck with a bed full of tanks.
Right.
The Magnolia Special was built from the very beginning to be a CNG car with all the storage not only reconciled but used structurally.
Right. So where's the Mac? So you
So
built the car.
So
Go
that
ahead.
car,
Sorry.
that car established. I drove that car. Max Matern and I drove that car from New York to Los Angeles and established a coast-to-coast record for alternative energy fuels, all alternative energy. 2 years later, Elon Musk took my outright record from me with RVs, rotating crews,
Yeah.
tractor trailer trucks. He built a charging infrastructure to make that journey happen.
Wow.
I mean, it was a multi-million dollar,
Right.
maybe $1 billion to beat my time. And me, I'm just a guy in a car that I built with an American Express card. The end.
It's just you and Max. I remember I've met Max. I've known and what's his brother's name?
It's Max and uh,
Sorry, blank, but I know his family had that sh the re Transportation Revolution had that dealership there in New Orleans for a number of years. Yeah,
yeah,
I know they don't have that anymore, but yeah. Anyway, I met
Zach. It's
what?
Zach. I don't know why I didn't think of
Zach.
that.
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, good people, good people. That must have been a hell of an experience. So I'm curious because I've seen the photos and so forth. It's a beautiful car. So where's the Magnolia Special now? Is it in a garage somewhere? Is it you have it?
I actually sold the Magnolia Special to fund the four-cylinder.
Ah, okay. Gotcha.
So I sold that car 2 years ago
Okay.
when I started this project full time.
Okay. So I know that you reconnected with Matt Chambers when he basically had I don't know if this was before or after he sold Confederate and it became Combat. I know things have changed around, but he now runs Curtis, which is an electric only motorcycle manufacturing. You designed the Curtis One, and you'd said that was a huge, like, steep learning curve to go from an internal combustion powered motorcycle to an electric motorcycle, but that you found it a very interesting challenge to work on.
It was great, and I'm so proud of that work. Man, the Curtis One is one of the greatest riding motorcycles, maybe the best riding motorcycle I've ever been on.
Wow.
It's so smooth and so controlled. Um, it's wonderful, and all the geometry changes that you can make on that bike.
Yeah.
It's not just one motorcycle; it's many different bikes. It's the first motorcycle to ever have adjustable rake,
Wow.
not just adjustable offset,
Right.
adjustable trail. I mean, an actual adjustable rake. The steering neck articulates, and it's got two positions: a 31 degree and a 27 degree,
Wow.
with available trail adjustment for either one of those positions. So when you adjust your rake, you adjust the entire center of gravity of the whole machine.
That's a bike I've Alan Cathcart did a write-up on that for American Rider for us. And of course, Mr. Cathcart has ridden just about every motorcycle that exists. And and he raved quite a bit about that bike. But yeah, I've ridden other electric motorcycles, but not one that, on that level.
Look,
So,
EV is an interesting approach. And if you're willing to keep an open mind about it, there's some good benefits to EV. There are a lot of downsides too.
sure.
But the main benefit of an EV is that you can control not only how it accelerates, you can control how it decelerates.
Right.
And a lot of people don't under, think about that with their motorcycle. So let me just dive into that for just a sec. What I developed for the Curtis One was a knob on the dash. That knob controls regen, and it's 0 to 10, right?
Okay.
Now, anybody who's ever ridden a two-stroke, when you let off of the gas of a two-stroke, it just coasts. It doesn't have any engine braking.
Right.
Now, if you're on a big honking high compression V twin, when you let off of that throttle, man, it has a lot of deceleration.
Right. Right.
Now, if you're in a corner and you're canyon carving, right, a lot of switchbacks, you can use that engine deceleration to set you up for the next corner. It loads the front end. So you're already ready for that next corner. And then bang, you hit it and you tip in and it's wonderful.
Right.
Two-stroke, you have to get on the brakes, right? Because it just coasts. Now,
Right.
if I'm in the French Quarter, cruising around and looking at stuff and waving at my friends, having that heavy engine braking, man, that's no bueno.
Right. Right.
Coast. When you have a knob that can select what sort of deceleration you want, just a knob, not a mode.
Right.
You don't have to
Yeah.
take your gloves off, put your glasses on, look around on a stupid screen.
Right.
I mean, a knob, right? Do you remember when car stereos, for a while there, they back in the 90s, they were like they had buttons to raise and lower the volume?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
because that was like the fashionable thing.
Right.
And then
Right.
people realized, man, this sucks. I just want a knob.
Yeah,
Knob or
you can't crank buttons like you can crank a knob.
there's something about the way our hands and minds work. It's
Right.
easy to
Right.
find, it's easy to
Right.
articulate, and it's real easy to set it in the place that you want it.
Yeah.
So the Curtis One has adjustable regenerative braking that also serves to set the chassis up for the kind of riding that you want to do.
Right. Right. Interesting. So, I really appreciate us. We've been talking quite a bit about your background and other projects. I really want to do that as you were doing earlier, provide some context for basically what is, your magnum opus, this the Magnolia 4. So I know this has been a motorcycle in concept form. It's been, you've been drawing it and thinking about it for decades. Really tell us about how you started to bring it to fruition. You've talked about a design brief. I know you said that that's available on the website, which probably is a real deep dive into a lot of things.
Well,
Beautiful.
let's talk about this document. What
Okay.
I'm holding in my hand right now is the design brief for this motorcycle.
Okay. It's a beautiful
Now,
looking book.
now this is I've sent this around to friends of mine and people that I know. And they get this document and they're like, well, what the hell is this? Because this is not a brochure. It's not a marketing tool. It's not a business plan. This is a design brief is to get everyone who's going to be on the production team and the design team on the same page with what the philosophy of the design is, where it's coming from, and why you're doing it. Just on design.
Right.
Anybody who's serious about being in the motorcycle business, you write about it first. That's where it all starts.
Okay. So,
Design brief, critically important. And I've been working on this brief, man, I mean, the sketches in there are from 1999.
right.
So we're over 25 years worth of drawing, 10 years worth of writing. And I'm on my third edition.
Well, it's something that's clearly has been refined, but one of the things that you talk about in one of your videos is that uh, in some ways, given that you're a small design firm, you're building you have, I assume you've got a prototype, is that just being able to build this motorcycle even 10 years ago might not have been possible given the scale of your operation. That you've got, it's not only the available like the CAD software, which is I'm sure been around for many years, but I'm sure it's gotten progressively better. But you also talk about 5-axis machining. So basically, like tell us about how you take, your design brief. I know that's a 70-page book, how you take that and have put it into reality to where you've got a functional motorcycle.
Well, 2 years ago, I hired an employee,
Okay.
and his name is Jeff Sparrow, and he was part of the team that developed the Modus engine.
Okay.
And he's one of the best SolidWorks guys I've ever worked with. So he's intimately familiar with engine design. So we went back and forth for about a year and 3 months, me sketching it out, handing him the sketches, saying, okay, how can we make this concept work digitally? And we just pretty intense year and 3 months. We got the engine and the entire motorcycle pretty much done.
Wow.
So now the job is to start to bring all of those designs into the real world by building what's known as a concept vehicle, which is the next step. Now, a concept vehicle is not a runner. That
Okay.
would be considered a prototype.
Okay. So, um, one of the things that you had mentioned in one of your videos about the Magnolia 4, which to me was counterintuitive. You were saying that I think maybe in reference to stuff like some of the Confederate motorcycles is you're always building it around, an S&S motor, and that if you have an engine that somebody else has designed, you're always having to make compromises and workarounds and so forth to make it fit within your chassis to meet your needs. you're saying with the Magnolia 4, it's actually in some ways easier to just build it all from scratch, build the engine from scratch, build everything from the ground up. And I always thought that, the reason that most companies don't do it that well, I say most companies, smaller companies, even Arch, you mentioned Arch, Keanu Reeves got tons of money. They're building their own engine, or they have plans to, but they've also started with, a crate engine that they've modified. Is that I thought that the development and building of the engine was the most expensive and the biggest cost and time hurdle to overcome. So how is that not necessarily the case here? I mean, I know you don't necessarily have an American four-cylinder platform. There's not an American four-cylinder crate engine you can buy from S&S or some company, but that you're saying it's just you can actually start from scratch, because that's, to me, it seems like the big hurdle.
As you said, William Henderson is one of my heroes.
Okay.
And he built his motorcycles, his American four-cylinder motorcycle, with pencil and paper, fire and dirt.
Right.
They didn't even have reliable electricity. Now, you're going to tell me that I should be afraid to build my own engine in the 21st century,
Right.
with everything that we now have? I mean, what happened what's happened to us,
Right.
that we're so terrified of making our own engine?
Right.
I mean, the technology is 130 years old.
Right.
Like
Right. Very good point.
There's no mystery to this.
Right.
It's just being clever and smart and doing things the right way, thinking things through, and having a little bit of ambition.
Right.
And I'll tell you one thing: if you're not building your own engine, you don't have a brand.
Right.
Right? Our passion is known as motorcycle. That's two words. And if you're only building the cycle side of that equation, you are not solving for it.
Right. Right.
Why is John Britton so special? Why do people revere him?
Because he
Because he
built
built
the
his
whole
own
thing
engine.
from the ground up. Yeah.
Damn right. He did it from first principles.
Right.
Not only did he build it, he reimagined it.
So I've heard you say that several times in some of your videos about building from first principles, and I'm not a designer, and so can you clarify exactly what you mean by that when you design from first principles?
Most of the things that we see around us, certainly in the motorcycle business, I mean, every single bike being made, certainly in America, they're all pretty derivative,
Okay.
right? It's layer upon layer of improvement on systems that are known to work. When you design from first principle, you don't take a system that exists and say, okay, let me incorporate this system into design. You say, well, what functions does this system solve for? What is our problem?
Right.
I'll give you a good example. Our problem on the Magnolia 4 is we're building an inline four-cylinder, which means that's air-cooled, which means that cylinder 3 is probably going to get hotter than cylinders 1, 2, and 4,
Right.
because it's kind of in the middle and behind cooling air. Well, the way we solve that problem is by rethinking what engine oil does and how it's distributed in the engine. We solve that problem by having mechanically adjustable ignition time. I mean, the problem is how do you build a motorcycle that'll last 100 years? Well, you can't use brake fluid. So you have to design from first principles. If you can't use brake fluid, you have to go with cable operated brakes,
Right.
which is what I'm doing.
Right.
I'm building the first reimagining of a cable operated drum brake in 60 years, 70 years,
Yeah.
an all new drum brake design.
Well, it's interesting so I know that you talk about you have some rules that you followed with designing the Magnolia 4. One of them is keep it simple. Two is eliminate as many fluids as possible. We're talking about eliminating brake fluid. That basically the Magnolia 4 has oil and gas. That's it. and that the third rule is to get rid of as many electronics as possible. So you're again, this is not something that other companies, particularly the large scale companies, you said that you're designing a motorcycle that will last 100 years. You talk about you reference some of these um, American four cylinders pre-war that still exist. They still run. You know, a lot of them are still.
There's a guy driving one on interstate right now,
Yeah, yeah,
designed with, again, pencil and paper,
yeah.
fire and dirt, and he's riding around right now. Why?
Right,
It's because you can repair mechanical things.
right, right,
Electronics degrade, and all you can do is replace them.
right.
The ultimate destination for the vast majority of motorcycles that are being produced in 2020, 25 is landfill. Because when the electronics go, well, throw the whole thing away.
Right. And
So
that's the dark side of the EVs as well. I mean, you know,
it is. What one thing that nobody talks about is that batteries are a wear item.
right,
And when your battery goes, I mean, there's no question that batteries are wear items. When your battery goes, now I've tried to hedge against that with the way the Curtis One is built by having the battery on the bottom of the bike and easy to get to. I mean, you can actually see how it bolts on.
right.
So I did my best to hedge against the ravages of time on the batteries with that project, as much as I could. Um, but yeah, man, when you build things that last, what you're doing is actively preserving the conscience of a civilization that's losing its way. What we need to do is have snapshots of who we were and the best of us that will live far beyond our weak flesh and bone. And the only way that I can figure to do that is to build stuff that will never get thrown away.
Yeah, that's admirable because that's not, you know, just don't hear that in people talking about designing things and building things, you know. I mean, yes, we can often talk about, well, they don't build houses like they used to, they don't build cars like they used to because things don't last, you know, and so forth. I mean, you live in a city that's got you know, some beautiful architecture, beautiful buildings that have been around for some of them for centuries, you know, some of the houses for well over 100 years. I live in a house that's
100 years?
built about what?
100 years? No, man. 200 is like normal. That's a
Yeah,
normal, yeah. 200-year-old house, that's like what everybody has.
yeah.
Well, what if somebody told you the two largest purchases that you're going to make in your lifetime are your car and your house? What if somebody told you that, well, after 10 years, this house is, you're going to have to throw it away and get another one?
Right, right.
Right? No, I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I live in a house that was built 25 years ago, and it's in like a tract home sort of neighborhood, it's assembly line construction, and yeah, it's I wouldn't say it's all shoddy, but it definitely doesn't feel like it's going to be here for 200 years, you know, definitely. So, yeah. But yeah. So,
Well, I like to sort. One of my hobbies is collecting Japanese swords. And when I'm finished working downstairs, I go upstairs and I've got a lounge with a place where I study my collection. And I've got a sword that was made in 1240 by
wow.
a man named Sadatoshi, Ayanokoji School, Yamashiro tradition. When I look at Sadatoshi's work, it affects me deeply. Here I am on the other side of the world, 800 years later, uttering that man's name and admiring the dedication. He dedicated his entire life to making that one object.
Right.
And you know what? He will live forever because of how he lived his life.
Right.
In me, in my collection.
Yeah, quite a legacy for sure. For
So
sure.
how can you be around stuff like that and not have it soak into your core and want to live that way, to be Sadatoshi? It's all about having heroes. One of the problems is that our young people don't have heroes anymore.
Yeah.
Elon Musk, is that a hero? I don't think so. Steve Jobs,
Yeah,
not a hero.
yeah, yeah. So what I want to know is what's the next step with the Magnolia 4? You know, you've got you've developed the motorcycle, you've got your design brief. Um, where is it in its evolution?
Well, I've got an engine uh, that's beyond just a concept engine. So this is an engine that could run and it may run someday. It needs some interior machining features done to it.
Right.
But the next phase is to slowly build a motorcycle, a concept vehicle around it, and then let people look at it. Let it soak in. Let people get people thinking about it in and thinking about American motorcycles in a new way. You know, we've got a real problem as especially American motorcycles, and that is that we're not very good at generating aspirational behavior. Now, in the car world, they've got that really figured out. It's so much more mature. When I look at a guy like Horacio Pagani, Gordon Murray, and Christian Koenigsegg, but those guys are living the dream,
Right.
and their work is unbelievable. If have you ever sat in a Pagani? Do you know what a
No,
Pagani is?
no. I've seen photographs. I don't even know I've seen one in person. I've seen photographs and know that they're beautiful, at least in photos. So yeah.
When you sit in a Pagani, you will eventually. If you look around at all the stuff that's in a Pagani,
Yeah.
what you're going to say is $4 million. How does he make it so cheap?
Wow. Yeah.
I'm serious.
Yeah.
Now, why can't motorcycles have support a guy like Horacio Pagani? Why is there this forced egalitarianism?
Yeah. You're right. I mean, you know, motorcycles can be um there's unique vehicles that you mentioned Arch, you know, Arch selling motorcycles for 100 grand plus, which for most people is just seems ludicrous. You know, when we had something
Well,
about Arch in the magazine,
but
oh God, spend that kind of money. What?
you go to the car guys,
Yeah.
and Horacio Pagani is sold out for the next 10 years
Right.
at 4 million a pop.
Yeah. Well, there's like I mean, there's clearly a luxury vehicle buyer class that is very, I mean, that's the 1/10 of 1% kind of, you know, tax bracket. Um, but I don't know that motorcycles, other than some collectible old motorcycles, which values continue to go up and are very high and so forth at auction prices and so forth. Old Crockers, for example, you know, there aren't many of them left, and they're very valuable, but there aren't that many modern motorcycles.
I'm glad you brought that up. So the Crocker sold for $1.5 million.
Yeah,
It's not enough money. The most expensive, it's the most expensive motorcycle ever sold at
yeah.
auction. You know what the most expensive car is?
I don't know, but I know it's tens of millions. I mean,
It's a 1955 Mercedes-Benz 300 SLR. That car sold 3 years ago for 150 million.
oof,
So it's 100x. It's 100 times. The
yeah,
most expensive car is 100 times more expensive than the most expensive motorcycle.
yeah,
Well, that's crazy.
yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah,
Let,
yeah,
us look at it by look. Let's just look at the thing by weight, right? So let's say shouldn't since the bike weighs maybe a third of what the car weighs, shouldn't it cost about a third of
right.
what the car costs? Let's be kind and call it a quarter, 1/4 of the cost. That's what the most expensive motorcycle should sell for. We have a problem in our culture as motorcyclists with the way that we value things.
It's interesting. I never really thought about it that way. I mean, because I know there are motorcycles like, wow, I could never spend that much money on a motorcycle, but yeah, it's just not it's not in the same ballpark as like you said, the range of car prices, supercars, luxury cars, and so forth. And um, but it's not that those things are necessarily, I mean, I know there's a proportion of scale in terms of materials and production costs, so forth, but it's not 100x. It's not like you're talking about. I mean, we're talking about the value of classic cars and motorcycles, not necessarily the new ones. But if you're talking, you can easily spend 4 or 5 million on a car. You kind of top out with, I don't know what the most expensive motorcycle you can buy now that would be a boutique build. I mean, is it a $150,000 arch? I don't know what else would be more expensive, but
Well,
still, it's not in the
the
same
Bruff,
scale.
the Bruff Superiors are up there. They're 70, 120, something like that. And that's a really nice machine. I
Right,
think they're doing pretty good over there. That's a good value
right.
for what you're getting.
But you're still talking about classic motorcycles,
Oh,
right?
the new Bruff
Oh,
Superior.
new Bruff. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen those. I mean, I know I've read about them, but like, are they producing them? Are they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Check them out.
Okay.
Look, man, and the brand that's got the biggest problem, the real elephant in the room is Harley Davidson. Man, I don't know what to say. Harley Davidson is damned if they do and damned if they don't.
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean,
I
they certainly have a leadership challenge, and that's not been good for them. I mean, because the thing is, they still make. One of your videos you had an Electra Glide from 1977. Is that what it
no,
was?
look, here it is. It's right
Yeah,
here.
that bet. Yeah,
There's the
that brown motorcycle.
yeah,
You're
the Brown
AMF
Lounge.
Harley. Yeah, right.
The Brown Lounge is a
The Brown Lounge. Yeah,
1977 Harley Davidson Electra Glide FLH. That
yeah,
is my daily motorcycle. I daily a shovelhead.
yeah,
Now, here's what's really interesting. It's a wonderful machine. I really love that bike.
yeah.
And I had to go through and do all the things to it because the problems with these bikes really come from people who don't know what they're doing, monkeying around on.
Right.
The bikes themselves are pretty good, all things being equal. This motorcycle behind me has a sticker on the front fender. That sticker says King of the Highway. No, it says Electra Glide Classic. All right, now that's a 50-year-old motorcycle. In 1977, they were calling their motorcycles Classic. They were labeling their own product Classic in 1977. And the funny thing is that when Harley deviates from this formula, a bag,
Yeah.
it never works.
Right. Well,
Sportsters,
like the new
Sportster Sport,
Sportster S, for example. Like, when they went
yeah,
away from the air-cooled Sportster, it is anyway, yeah, I did not, I'm not warmed up to. It's weird looking, it's weird to ride, it's weird, but
awful.
just last week I was on a Harley Street Glide. We're doing a comparison test ride. It was on the Indian Chieftain Power Plus and Harley Street Glide, and that is a damn fine motorcycle. I mean, it is a good looking motorcycle, but the engine, they've been building V twins for a long time. And you talked about this in one of your videos with regard to you had a 94 lowrider. You're talking about that most of the bike is not great, but the engine itself, the character of the engine, how it feels, how it comes on the power, the low end torque. Again, that is just that's they get that part right, and but yeah, they've got there's lots of other issues with.
Anytime they deviate from the formula of an electric line,
Yeah,
it's a loser. Now, the Sportster is always designed to be the loss leader in their
yeah,
lineup, but as the intro to get your,
right,
work your way up to the electric line. Man, Harley Davidson, at some point, everybody who wants one is going to have one.
right,
Here's the real problem, and this is what Harley, I don't think they really understand, is that they're not competing against Indian. Indian and Harley aren't even competing against each other. They're competing against Facebook Marketplace. Man, I can go online right now on Facebook Marketplace and for $5,000 buy a road cam, Evo road cam, which
right.
I think is better than a twin cam. much rather have an Evo Road King for $5,000. It's a cooler motorcycle. Why wouldn't I do that?
Right.
What's
Yeah.
Harley going to do? What's Harley going to do about the used market? Man, back in this is the hangover from the period that you and I lived through, that that early 2000s boom, and
Right.
everybody who could rub two nickels together went to the Harley dealership, took out a loan, a 60-month loan or whatever it is, and bought that Road King. They sold 250,000 of them a year.
Yeah.
And they're still out there with, I don't know, 10,000, 15,000 miles.
Right.
You guys rode them a little bit. Now they're too old. And now the market is flooded with all of these really nice Evo engined touring motorcycles.
Yeah.
It's never been a better time to be a young person who wants to see America on the back of an American motorcycle. And you can do it for nothing.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, so
And the proliferation of YouTube videos,
yeah.
you can learn everything you need to learn about how to service your motorcycle on YouTube. Now, we didn't have that when we were growing up. We had to go deal with the graybeard assholes at the service department at the Harley shop
Right.
who treated us terribly. I don't know if you remember that,
Yeah.
but they were total pricks to me.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
I just go on YouTube. I
Right.
can do everything that they do. It's all on
Right.
YouTube.
Right.
Never been a better time to have a young person interested in motorcycles. Why aren't they doing it?
If we could get the damn smartphones out of their hands. I mean, that's I don't know. That would be a whole conversation in and of itself. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but yes, as being over connected with devices, I think because you of course you mentioned this in one of your videos, and I wholeheartedly agree is that we need motorcycles now more than ever because they allow us to get away from that. Yes, you can have a communicator and take phone calls if you choose to do that kind of stuff. But when you're on a motorcycle, you can't be staring at your screen, scrolling, doom scrolling, all that stuff. To me, it's still the thing that just brings me such great joy is the experience of just being out on a ride and I'm very fortunate to live in Southern California. We're not very ffar away. I can be in the mountains, away from the big cities and the traffic and all that. I can be staring at the coast, the Pacific coast. It's just that escape. It still is as you said, it's good for our mental health, So yeah, but I don't know how many young people recognize that.
I don't know either.
Yeah,
It's a problem that Harley Davidson ain't going to solve.
yeah,
Indian isn't going to solve that problem.
yeah.
Maybe the problem isn't that young people aren't interested in motorcycles. Maybe the problem is there aren't more interesting motorcycles.
Well, I mean, what was your first motorcycle?
The cheapest thing I could find, right?
Yeah. But would that qualify as an interesting motorcycle? Or is it just cheap? It was
Express
just
50,
available. What?
a Honda Express 50.
Yeah.
No, actually, the first motorcycle that I was able to really choose for myself, I bought a brand new Honda
Okay.
and then rode that around 9 months later. I'm like, this sucks. Now I know how to ride. I want something that's legit. What I was looking for was authenticity.
Okay.
And I found that in a 1972 Moto Guzzi Eldorado.
Nice. Yeah.
And I had to learn everything about how to service that bike. Man, I had to go to the library. Do you remember going to the library and making photocopies of
Sure.
the
Yeah.
Chilton manual? And there's your manual. It's like paper clipped together. Yeah, that's how I had to do it. There was nobody teaching me anything.
Right.
I had to go to the library and get the manual. But what a great machine to really invigorate
Right.
the passion. Moto Guzzi.
Yeah. Well, also built to last. I know that you've had one of the motorcycles you have. Do you own that Falcone for what is it, a 53 Falcone Turismo? Do you own that bike?
Sold it.
Oh, you
Sold it to
sold it.
fund the
Okay, so
Magnolia.
that was just an earlier video. You had it at the time, but yeah, okay, gotcha. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So for your listeners, all these videos that you're referencing,
Yeah.
are on my website. And the reason why I made all these videos is that nobody knows who I am.
Yeah.
So I was like, I got a lot of work to do to introduce myself and to get all these crazy ideas that I have in front of people.
Yeah.
And the best way I could figure out of doing that is real short,
Yeah.
because we're in a short attention span world now.
Yeah.
Uh,
What I
to
appreciate is
introduce myself.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you were. I mean, I really enjoyed your videos because like I said, because I didn't know who you are. I've followed your work for many years, but I didn't know much about you, and so I learned a lot more about your background, where you come from. But you're very honest about sort of again, your heroes, your inspiration, really what sort of drives you, your passions. I mean, I didn't know that you collected Japanese swords, but clearly there's a reason you do because of what they represent and the quality of the craftsmanship and sort of that really resonates with what you're doing with your motorcycles and designs and projects. And so yeah, anyway, I highly recommend Bienville Studios, which is Bienville. So people that don't know how to spell Bienville, it's a street in New Orleans.
Oh, it's
Studios.com.
the founder. It's the founder of New Orleans.
Bienville? Ah,
Jean-Baptiste Lemoyne Sieur de Bienville founded New Orleans in 1718.
I didn't
And
realize it. Yeah.
he was such a character. He's a French Canadian explorer. You ever heard of the brand Cadillac?
Yeah.
Named after a similar character.
Gotcha. Well, so at this website at bienvillestudios.com, you can watch these videos. So as I said, there's like kind of two sets of videos that I went through. One is the journey, which is kind of your sort of career and life path and so forth leading up to the Magnolia. And then you've got these shorter journal videos, which a lot of them are about specific motorcycles and inspirations and so forth. And then you talk about the Magnolia 4 engine. So yeah, that's a great way to learn more about the projects you've worked on. And so hey, I burned an hour and 15 minutes of your time, JT. So
Oh, wow. Okay.
yeah, no, I mean, I like I said, I feel like we could keep going and would love to talk to you again. Like I said, I don't want to overextend your hospitality, but yeah, like I said, it's been fascinating to learn about somebody and to get to feel like I've gotten to know you better because so I had written this column for the August September issue of American Writer called American Original, and I ascribed that to you and to the Magnolia 4 that you've designed because you really are following your own path that you have for a long time. But I know that from what you've said, especially following Katrina, has not been an easy path. I know it's been one that has required a lot of intestinal fortitude, overcoming a lot of challenges. But I respect your adherence to principles and being you've got certain values that are very important to you that you don't want to compromise, and that's not something a lot of people can say about themselves. So anyway, my hats off to you for what you've done over the last 30 years, what you're continuing to do, and for sharing your story with me, with our listeners. And like I say, I invite anybody to go to the website. You can read your design brief about the Magnolia 4 on the website and watch some of the videos and learn more. And I look forward to hearing more about how the Magnolia 4 story continues to unfold. So
Well, I sure do appreciate it. And I appreciate your time and I appreciate your listeners' patience. And I just want to close by saying that the dream of the American motorcycle is not dead. It still lives within me. I'm going to do everything that in my power to make a new American motorcycle.
wonderful. Yeah. Well, JT, like I said, I would like to continue our conversation in the near future. Boy, I'd love to come to New Orleans and pay you a visit, sit around and have a whiskey and talk to you face to face. So hopefully we can do something like that someday. It's been a long time since I've been back to the city. I got my heart broken there as well after Katrina. I don't necessarily need to go into my story about it, but I know we sort of share that in common. And so, again, thanks for your time. Thanks for sharing your story. Really appreciate it. So, for the Rider Magazine Insider Podcast, I'm Greg Drevenstead. Thanks for listening and keep the rubber side down. If you've enjoyed listening to the Rider Magazine Insider Podcast, please subscribe, leave us a positive rating, and tell your friends.
We also encourage you to visit ridermagazine.com, where you can get the latest in motorcycle news and reviews and sign up for our free weekly newsletter. You can also subscribe to print and digital editions of Rider Magazine, which is published 12 times a year. Thanks again for listening.